I got the floor because I had stated my intention to bring forward a motion. I brought forward a motion because we have a lot of work ahead of us right now, and we have to hit the ground running for February. We cannot dilly-dally. Given the crisis we're facing in the planet, given the promises that the Prime Minister has made regarding our international obligations, it's incumbent upon this committee to do the hard work in order to make sure that we ensure that Canada lives up to its obligations. It started off when I brought forward my motion. I had outreach from some of the other parties about how to improve the motion so that we could actually be more efficient at this meeting, so we were not at cross purposes. So I would like to bring forward this motion. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082, before February 15th, 2022, the committee undertake a two-meeting study concerning the development and implementation of the Emissions Reduction Fund onshore program, with particular focus on the method of accounting for greenhouse gases, that the committee invite the Minister of Natural Resources, the Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Development, experts and stakeholders, that the committee make recommendations on the future of the program, and that the committee report its findings to the House. That the Minister of Natural Resources be invited to appear before the committee prior to February 28, 2022, for no fewer than 2 hours on the subject matter of the supplementary estimates, B 2021-2022. And that pursuant to Standing Order 1082, during the next 8 meetings after this, the committee undertake a study of the government's proposal for a greenhouse gas emissions cap on the oil and gas sector, including but not limited to the ability of Canada to meet its climate commitments articulated at the UN Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP26 in Glasgow, the government's plans and targets for funding renewable energy, the role of carbon capture, utilization and sequestration, CCUS, that experts and stakeholders be invited to appear, that the Minister of Natural Resources and the Minister of Environment be invited to appear, and that the committee report its finding to the House prior to April 29, 2022. So I won't take a lot of time. I'm just going to explain to my colleagues around the table why I think it's very important that we pass this motion as the beginning of our work as a committee. Certainly the issue of reduction of methane is one of the most primary tasks that we have to be able to deal with as a country. And that the fund that was in place, the Emissions Reduction Fund, the onshore program, received over $500 million, and it was money that was supposed to be used to ensure that we reached methane targets. And my colleague, Mr. Simard, is very clear on the importance of getting answers on this, because we find that Canada missed its methane targets, and that money that should have been spent helping us decrease greenhouse gas emissions, it wasn't spent on that. We have an obligation to find out what went wrong in order to make sure this doesn't happen again, because when I speak with people in industry, they say we can easily hit the methane targets and we can exceed them. So if the Prime Minister is making promises of further reductions in methane when we haven't met the ones we already have, we need, as a committee, to provide recommendations to the government on what went wrong with this program, what needs to be fixed, and how we meet methane targets. The second part of this motion regarding inviting the Minister of Natural Resources to talk to us on supplementary estimates is very much, I think, in order of housekeeping, because this will come up, and if we agree to a study in that time, we would have to be jostling around committee time. So I thought it would be, from advice I got from members of other parties, to just put it in so that it's part of the work program. And of course, we're going to have the minister come forward on that because it's self-evident. The third issue, of course, is the need to have a plan on the emissions cap. We know that on November 1st in Glasgow, the Prime Minister made a very important announcement to the world that we will cap, his quote, "We will cap oil and gas sector emission today and ensure they decrease tomorrow at a pace at a pace and scale need to reach net zero by 2050. He went further. That's no small task for a major oil and gas producing country. It's a big step that's absolutely necessary. And I think that my colleagues from all parties would agree on the importance of us examining how are we going to make this emissions cap. Does it begin now? We know that there is somewhat of a cap in Alberta, but that would allow for a large increase in production. Is the government going to support increased production or decreasing production? How are we going to do that? And it comes to our committee to deal with this, my colleagues, because on the same day that he made the announcement at Glasgow, the Environment Minister wrote to this committee, the Net Zero Advisory Body, which I'd never actually heard of, to ask for advice. So I'm thinking if the Environment Minister was looking for advice on how to set an emissions cap while the Prime Minister was making announcements on the international stage, our committee could do a lot of that work for the Prime Minister, and we could come back with a credible plan, and each of us will bring our own focus to it. For me, we have to have a plan that makes sure that our children have a world that's livable. We have to meet an emissions cap target that is credible, that is doable, that will be reached because emissions continue to rise. And we need to do it within a frame of also the economic impacts. If sectors are going to be impacted, is there a plan for transition? We hear the word just transition thrown out about, and I'm sure we'll end up looking at these issues later, but it all comes down to whether or not we can deliver on an emissions cap. If we can't deliver on an emissions cap, there's no talk about going further on issues like the just transition. So I'm bringing this forward for a vote. I don't see that it is controversial. I think that across party lines we all agree on it, on these issues, so I'd like to put it forward to be voted on.